I need you to do something right now. Before I say another word, look behind you. Go ahead. I'll wait. Good. There was nothing there. I knew there wouldn't be. Not yet. My name is Marcus Webb. I'm a 34-year-old high school history teacher from Asheville, North Carolina. I coach junior varsity soccer on weekends. I grade papers at the kitchen table every Sunday morning with bad coffee and worse music. I am by every measure an ordinary man living an ordinary life. I'm telling you this because what happened to me should not have happened to an ordinary man. It should not have happened to anyone. It started 8 months ago with a student I had never met. Her name was Clara Voss. She showed up on a Monday in October, transferred from a school in rural Vermont that I had never heard of. 16 years old, dark hair, quiet in the way that isn't shyness, the way that is something else entirely. She sat in the back of my third period class and she never raised her hand. But every time I asked the class a question, she already knew the answer. I could see it on her face. This faint, patient expression, like someone waiting for everyone else to catch up. After 2 weeks, I kept her after class. "You clearly know this material," I said. "Why don't you participate?" She looked at me for a long moment before answering. "Because the answers aren't the interesting part," she said. "The questions are." I should have left it there. Any reasonable adult would have left it there. "What do you mean?" I asked. She tilted her head slightly, the way a bird does when it hears something distant. "Have you ever wondered," she said, "why certain things follow certain people? Not bad luck, not coincidence, something more deliberate than that, something that chooses." I told her that was an interesting philosophical question. She said it wasn't philosophical. Then she picked up her bag and walked out. That night I couldn't sleep. At 2 in the morning I got up and stood in my kitchen and looked out the back window at my yard. There was a figure standing at the edge of my property. Just standing, perfectly still, at the tree line where my grass met the woods. I couldn't make out a face, too dark, too far, but the shape was wrong in a way I couldn't immediately name. Too tall, too thin, arms that seemed slightly too long for the body. I stood at the window for what felt like a very long time. When I finally blinked, it was gone. The next morning, Clara was absent. She was absent the day after that, and the day after that. By Friday, her name had been quietly removed from my roster. When I asked the office about her, the secretary looked at her computer for a long moment, and then said, there was no record of a student by that name ever being enrolled. I showed her my own printed attendance sheet with Clara's name on it. The secretary looked at it carefully. Then she looked at me. "Mr. Webb," she said slowly, "this sheet has 23 students on it. Your class has 23 students. But this name here, this space is empty on our system. It's as if the slot exists, but no one was ever assigned to it." I drove home that afternoon in silence. That night the figure was back, closer this time. I did not sleep at all. The following weekend, I drove to the Vermont town listed on Clara's transfer papers, 4 hours each way. The school she was supposedly transferred from did not exist. The address was an empty field at the edge of a small town. An old woman at a gas station told me a school had stood there once. Burned down in 1974, 40 years before Clara Voss was born. I sat in my car in that empty field for a long time. On the drive home, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Silence. And then very softly, a sound I recognized immediately. Clara's voice. "You went looking," she said. "That means you're paying attention. Good, you're going to need to be." "Who are you?" I asked. "What is happening to me?" A pause. Wind on the line, or something that sounded like wind. "It chose you 8 months ago," she said. "The night you stayed late to grade papers and walked to your car at midnight and felt something watching you from the dark. You felt it and you turned around. Do you remember?" I remembered. I had told myself it was nothing, a feeling, tiredness. "That was the moment," Clara said. "When you turned around and looked. That was when it marked you." "What is it?" I whispered. "Old," she said. "Older than the town, older than the state. It has been in those woods behind your house since before your house existed, since before anything existed there. It does not have a name that translates into any language you speak." "What does it want?" The line went quiet for so long I thought she had hung up. "To be seen," she finally said, "and then to watch you look away, over and over, until you can't anymore." "What happens when I can't anymore?" She didn't answer that. "Clara," I said. "Who are you? Why are you telling me this?" "Because someone told me," she said, "when it was my turn, and someone told them before that. We pass it on. It's the only thing we can do." "Your turn?" My voice came out smaller than I intended. "What do you mean, your turn?" "I made it through," she said quietly. "Not everyone does. But I made it through and now I help the next one. That's how it works. That's all I can tell you." The line went dead. I drove the rest of the way home in complete silence. The figure was waiting at the tree line when I pulled into my driveway. This time I did not go to the window to look at it. I had already learned that much. I found his log 3 weeks later, when a section of drywall in my basement shifted during a storm. Inside, a hollow space in the wall. 47 photographs, all of my house, taken across what appeared to be 80 years. Every single one from the same angle, from the tree line, from exactly where the figure stood. Howard Finch, the man I had bought the house from, 81 years old when he died, 30 years in that house. I had always assumed he'd simply been a quiet old man who liked his privacy. I drove to the County Historical Society and found his handwritten log, donated 2 years before his death. I want to read you some of what he wrote, because it matters. Every word of it matters. The first entry, March 4th, 1987. "The thing at the tree line has been there since I moved in. I believe it was there before that. It does not come closer than 20 feet from the house as long as I leave something at the edge of the yard each night before dark. I have been doing this for 2 years, old food at first, then fresher things. It has preferences. I have learned them. This is an arrangement. I intend to keep it." He wrote every week for 30 years, methodical, patient. The log of a man who had decided that understanding something was better than fearing it. He described its appearance in careful detail, the height, the arms, the way it was never there when you looked directly at it, only visible at the edge of vision, through glass, or in the fraction of a second, just after you looked away. In an entry from 1993, he wrote something that stopped me cold. "I have begun to understand what it actually consumes. It is not food. It is not blood or flesh or any physical thing. What it takes from you is the moment, the specific moment of turning away, of choosing not to look. Every time you see it and then deliberately look away, That act, that choice, that microsecond of decision, that is what feeds it. It grows stronger on that, on willing blindness, on chosen ignorance. I wonder sometimes if it is not so different from a great many other things in this world that feed on the same. In 1998 he wrote, "I have calculated that in 11 years of this arrangement I have provided it with approximately 4,000 individual moments of looking away. I am 62 years old. I have perhaps 20 years remaining, another 7,000 moments, give or take. This seems to be sufficient. It has never come closer than the tree line. I consider this a reasonable bargain." Howard Finch, 62 years old, alone in a house with something at the edge of his yard, doing the math on how many years he had left to keep it fed. I sat with that image for a long time. The final entry in the log was dated 3 months before his death. The handwriting was shaky but deliberate. I am dying now in the way that old men die, slowly, then all at once. The arrangement will need a new keeper. I have tried to warn people. They do not believe me until it is too late to do anything but learn. Whoever finds this, and you will find it, because it will make sure you find it, the way it makes sure everything necessary happens. I need you to understand something. It is patient. It has been here longer than any of us and will be here long after. But patient does not mean passive. It learns, it adapts. In 30 years I have watched it become more sophisticated in how it marks people, more selective. It used to take anyone. Now it chooses. It chooses people who are already paying attention to the world in a particular way. People who notice things others miss. People who lean toward the dark instead of away from it. People who, when they sense something wrong, move toward it instead of running. If you are reading this, you are one of those people. I am sorry, but you are not without options. The arrangement is learnable. The rules are not complicated. First, do not look directly at it. Peripheral vision only. Direct attention feeds it too quickly. Second, leave something at the tree line before dark. What it wants changes. You will learn its preferences over time as I did. Third, and this is the most important rule, the one that everything else depends on. Do not look behind you. Whatever you hear, whatever you feel at the back of your neck in the night, whatever sounds seem to come from just over your shoulder, whatever your body screams at you, do not look behind you. Because the arrangement only holds as long as you are the one controlling when and how you give it what it wants. The moment it can make you turn, the moment it generates the look away rather than you choosing it, the arrangement ends. And what comes after the arrangement ends, I do not know. In 30 years, it has never ended. I have made sure of that. Make sure of that. 6 weeks after I found the log, I almost ended the arrangement. It was 3 in the morning. I had been asleep for 2 hours, the first real sleep I had managed in days. I woke up for no reason I could identify. The house was completely silent, and then, from directly behind me, so close that I felt the air move. A sound, not a footstep, not a breath, something more subtle than that. The sound of presence, of mass occupying space, of something standing close enough that I should have been able to feel its warmth. I want to be honest with you about what happened in that moment. Every nerve in my body fired at once, Every instinct I had, every animal impulse, every childhood reflex, every hardwired human response to the sensation of being prey, screamed at me to turn around. I lay completely still. My hands were gripping the sheets so hard my knuckles ached. My eyes were open and fixed on the wall in front of me. In my peripheral vision, I could see the bedroom door, closed, the window curtained, the lamp on the nightstand. The sound came again, closer, and then. And this is the part that I have never told anyone, the part that I am telling you now, because you need to understand what this thing is truly capable of. I heard a voice. My mother's voice. She died 4 years ago. Pancreatic cancer. 11 days from diagnosis to death. I was with her at the end, and her last words to me were so quiet I had to lean down to hear them, and I have never repeated them to another living soul. The voice behind me said those words. Exactly those words. In exactly her voice. With exactly the cadence and the softness and the particular way she had of saying my name at the beginning that I have not heard since the day she died. I want you to understand what that was like, to hear your dead mother's voice in the dark from directly behind you. I want you to understand how close I came to turning around. I pressed my face into the pillow. I gripped the sheets. I counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to 100, then back down to 1. The voice came 3 more times. Each time I did not turn. At some point, I don't know when, the presence behind me was gone. I felt it leave the way you feel a fever break, a sudden absence, a return of normal air. I lay there until sunrise. Then I got up, went to the edge of the yard, and left what it wanted at the tree line. The arrangement held. That was 6 months ago. I still live in the house. I will probably always live in the house. This is not resignation. It is practicality. Howard Finch understood that. 30 years, a full life, an arrangement that held until the very end. I have learned the rules. I have learned its preferences. I have learned the particular quality of stillness that the situation requires. A discipline of the body and the attention that I could not have imagined 8 months ago. Clara checks in sometimes. A message, a phone call. She never says much. She doesn't need to. She made it through her own arrangement, and now she watches over others who are finding their way through theirs. I asked her once how many of us there are. She was quiet for a moment. More than you'd think, she said. Less than there should be. I did not ask her to explain that. I want to tell you one final thing before I go. I told you at the beginning that I am an ordinary man, a history teacher, junior varsity soccer, bad coffee on Sunday mornings. That was true 8 months ago. I'm not sure it's true anymore, because here is what Howard Finch knew, what Clara knows, what I am still learning. The thing at the tree line changes you, not violently, not all at once, but the discipline it requires, the sustained, deliberate, chosen awareness. It reshapes something fundamental in how you move through the world. You become very still, very patient, very attuned to the quality of the air around you and the sounds that don't quite fit and the shapes at the edges of things that most people never notice. You become, in other words, exactly the kind of person it chooses. I used to think that was a tragedy. Now I'm not so sure. Now I think, and this is the thought I fall asleep to, on the nights when I sleep at all, that maybe the choosing goes both ways. Maybe we find it as much as it finds us. Maybe the people who end up in these arrangements are the people who were always going to end up here, who were built for this particular kind of attention. This particular kind of darkness. Maybe you are one of them. You chose this video tonight of all the things you could have listened to in the dark at whatever hour this is for you. You chose this. Think about that. And one last thing. You've been very good tonight. Very still. Very controlled. But you've been listening for a while now, and the back of your neck has been prickling for the last few minutes, hasn't it? Just slightly, just enough. Don't explain it away. Don't tell yourself it's nothing. And whatever you do, whatever you hear, whatever you feel, do not look behind you. Good night, Marcus. I know that's not your name, but it is now. Good night.